The clock showed 6:30 a.m. when Catherine, Princess of Wales, opened her eyes. Today was different from other days. She could feel it in the air. The whole of London seemed to be waiting for something special. Kate sat up in bed and looked out the window of Kensington Palace. The sun was just starting to rise, painting the sky in soft pink and gold colors. "Good morning, darling," said Prince William as he walked into their bedroom. He was already dressed in his dark pants and white shirt. His hair was neat and combed back. William looked serious but excited at the same time. "Are you ready for today?" Kate smiled and nodded. "I think so. But I'm a little nervous too." She got out of bed and walked to her big closet. Inside were hundreds of beautiful clothes, shoes, and accessories. But today, she needed to pick the perfect outfit. This was not just any day. Today, they would go to Westminster Abbey for a very important ceremony. Kate looked at dress after dress. She wanted something that looked respectful, but also beautiful. She wanted something that would make people smile when they saw her. After 20 minutes, she found it. A navy blue coat dress that was elegant and classy. The dress had small buttons down the front and came down to just below her knees. It was perfect. Meanwhile, in another room, their 3 children were getting ready too. Prince George, who was 10 years old, was trying to tie his necktie. He looked in the mirror and made a face. "This is so hard," he said to himself. George was wearing a dark blue suit that made him look very grown-up. His shoes were shined so bright they looked like mirrors. Princess Charlotte, who was 8 years old, was much better at getting dressed. She had chosen a pretty cream-colored dress with small flowers on it. Charlotte loved flowers and pretty things. She brushed her long brown hair and put in a small hair clip that sparkled a little. Charlotte looked at herself in the mirror and smiled. She felt very special today. The youngest child, Prince Louis, was only 5 years old. He was having the hardest time getting ready. Louis kept trying to put his shoes on the wrong feet. His nanny, Maria, was helping him. "Come on, Louis," she said with a gentle voice. "Let's put this shoe on this foot." Louis giggled and tried again. He was wearing a little suit just like his big brother George. Back in their bedroom, Kate was putting on her makeup. She kept it simple and natural. A little bit of pink on her lips and some soft brown colors around her eyes. She wanted to look fresh and happy. William was now putting on his formal military uniform. It was dark blue with gold buttons and colorful ribbons on the chest. The uniform made him look very important and strong. "How do I look?" Kate asked William as she turned around. She was now fully dressed in her navy blue coat dress. Her hair was styled in soft waves that framed her face beautifully. William stopped what he was doing and looked at his wife. His eyes lit up with love and pride. "You look absolutely wonderful," he said. "The most beautiful princess in the world." Kate blushed a little and laughed. "You always say that." "Because it's always true," William replied with a warm smile. Down the hall, they could hear their children talking and laughing. Charlotte was helping Louis with his tie, and George was practicing walking in his shiny shoes. The whole family was almost ready for one of the most important days of the year. Kate took one last look in the mirror. She took a deep breath and smiled. Today, the whole world would be watching them, but she felt ready. She felt proud to be part of this special family. "Let's go make this day memorable," she said to William. And with that, their amazing day was about to begin. At exactly 9:15 a.m., the big black car pulled up in front of Kensington Palace. The car was so shiny that it looked like a mirror. 2 men in dark suits got out and opened the doors. These were the Royal Protection Officers. They had been planning this trip for weeks to make sure everything would be perfect and safe. Kate walked out of the palace first. Her navy blue coat dress moved gently in the morning breeze. She looked calm and beautiful, but inside her heart was beating fast with excitement. William followed right behind her, looking very handsome in his military uniform. The gold buttons on his jacket caught the sunlight and sparkled. "Children, it's time to go," Kate called softly. Prince George came out walking very straight and tall. He had been practicing how to walk like a prince all week. His shoes made small clicking sounds on the stone steps. Princess Charlotte skipped out next, her cream dress flowing around her legs. She was holding a small purse that matched her dress. Little Prince Louis came running out last, almost tripping over his own feet. William caught him just in time. "Slow down, Louis," William laughed. "We have plenty of time." The family got into the car one by one. Kate sat by the window on one side. William sat next to her. The three children sat across from them. Charlotte sat in the middle, with George on one side and Louis on the other. Louis pressed his little nose against the window right away. "Look at all the people," Louis said with wide eyes. As their car started moving through the streets of London, something amazing began to happen. People were everywhere. They lined the sidewalks, holding small British flags. Some people had flowers in their hands. Others had cameras ready to take pictures. Children sat on their parents' shoulders to get a better view. "Wave to them, children," Kate said with a warm smile. She lifted her own hand and waved at the crowds. Her wave was slow and gentle, just like a real princess should wave. Charlotte copied her mother perfectly. She waved with a big smile on her face. George waved too, but he looked very serious and important. Louis got so excited that he pressed both hands against the window and waved with both arms at the same time. "Why are so many people here?" Louis asked. "They want to see us," William explained. "They are happy that we are going to this special ceremony today. They want to show us that they care about our family." As they drove through different parts of London, more and more people appeared on the streets. Some people had been waiting since very early in the morning. They brought small chairs to sit on, and thermos bottles full of tea to keep warm. Old ladies waved handkerchiefs. Young children jumped up and down with excitement. "There's a man with a big camera," Charlotte pointed out. "And there's a lady with flowers," George added. Kate and William kept waving and smiling at everyone. They could see how happy the people looked when they waved back. It made Kate feel warm inside. She loved how the British people always showed their support for the royal family. The car drove past Big Ben, the famous clock tower. Louis counted the numbers on the clock face. They drove past the River Thames, where boats were floating peacefully. Charlotte saw a dog wearing a tiny British flag costume and giggled. "Look, Mama, that dog is dressed up too." Everyone in the car laughed. Even the serious protection officers in the front seats smiled. As they got closer to Westminster Abbey, William pointed ahead. "Look, children, do you see that big, beautiful building? That's where we're going." The children looked out the windows and saw the amazing stone building getting bigger and bigger. Their special day was just beginning. The big black car slowed down as it reached Westminster Abbey. Kate looked out the window and her breath caught in her throat. There were so many people. Hundreds and hundreds of them were standing behind metal barriers, all waiting to see the royal family arrive. Some people had been waiting for hours in the cold morning air. "Oh my," Kate whispered to William. "Look at all these people." William squeezed her hand gently. "They're all here for us," he said. "They want to be part of this special day." The car came to a complete stop right in front of the Abbey's huge wooden doors. These doors were so old and so big that they looked like they belonged in a fairy tale. The stone walls of the Abbey reached up toward the sky like giant fingers. Outside the car, photographers were everywhere. They had big cameras with long lenses pointed at the car windows. Flash bulbs were already going off, even though no one had gotten out yet. News reporters spoke quickly into their microphones, telling people around the world that the royal family had arrived. "Are you ready?" William asked his family. "Yes, Papa," said George in a brave voice, even though he felt butterflies in his stomach. "I'm ready too," said Charlotte, smoothing down her dress one more time. Little Louis just nodded his head up and down very fast. He was too excited to speak. The car door opened. A man in a dark suit held it wide. Kate took a deep breath and stepped out first. The moment her foot touched the ground, The crowd erupted in cheers and applause. The sound was so loud it seemed to shake the old stone walls of the Abbey. Kate stood still for just a moment, letting everyone see her beautiful navy blue dress. The wind played with her hair gently. She looked around at all the happy faces in the crowd and smiled her warmest smile. Cameras clicked and flashed from every direction. "Princess Catherine, over here," shouted one photographer. "You look beautiful," called out a lady from the crowd. William stepped out next. He looked very tall and handsome in his military uniform. He stood next to Kate and waved to the people. The crowd cheered even louder when they saw him. Some people in the crowd started clapping in rhythm. Then came the children. George got out of the car and stood up very straight. He looked serious and grown-up, just like his father. The crowd made awe sounds when they saw how handsome he looked in his little suit. Charlotte stepped out next, and she was not shy at all. She gave a little wave to the crowd, and they loved it. Someone in the crowd shouted, "Hello, Princess Charlotte." She smiled and waved back with both hands. Last came Louis. A security officer helped him out of the car because he was still so small. When Louis saw all the people looking at him, his mouth opened wide in surprise. There were so many people, more people than he had ever seen in his whole life. "Wave, Louis," Charlotte whispered to her little brother. Louis lifted his tiny hand and gave the smallest, cutest wave ever. The crowd went completely crazy with joy. Everyone was saying, "How sweet," and "Look at little Louis." The family stood together on the old stone steps of Westminster Abbey. Behind them were the massive doors that kings and queens had walked through for hundreds of years. In front of them were hundreds of people who had come just to see them on this special day. Kate put her hand on Charlotte's shoulder. William put his hand on George's back. They were ready to walk into the Abbey and make history together. The adventure was just beginning. The heavy wooden doors of Westminster Abbey began to open slowly. They made a deep creaking sound that echoed through the ancient building. Kate felt her heart beat faster as she waited behind those doors with her family. On the other side, hundreds of very important people were sitting quietly, waiting to see them walk in. "Remember to walk slowly," William whispered to the children, "just like we practiced at home." Charlotte nodded seriously. George straightened his shoulders. Louis held tightly to his mother's hand. As the doors opened all the way, bright sunlight poured into the dark Abbey. For a moment, the royal family was like shadows against the bright doorway. Everyone inside the Abbey stopped talking and turned to look. It became so quiet that you could hear a pin drop. Kate took the first step inside. Her navy blue dress looked perfect against the old stone walls. She walked very slowly and gracefully, just like a real princess should walk. Her head was held high, and she had a gentle smile on her face. Every step she took seemed to make the whole Abbey glow brighter. William walked beside her, looking strong and proud in his military uniform. The gold buttons on his jacket caught the light from the tall windows. He looked around the Abbey and nodded politely to the people he recognized. His presence filled the entire space with dignity and respect. Behind them, the three children followed in a perfect line. George walked first, trying to copy his father's confident steps. His little suit made him look like a miniature prince. He kept his eyes straight ahead, remembering what his parents had taught him about royal behavior. Charlotte came next, and she was not nervous at all. She seemed to enjoy having everyone look at her. Her cream-colored dress swished softly as she walked. She looked around at the beautiful Abbey with wonder in her eyes. The stained glass windows cast colorful light patterns on her face. Little Louis walked at the end, and he was trying his very best to be good. His tiny legs took quick steps to keep up with his family. He looked up at the incredibly high ceiling of the Abbey and his mouth opened in amazement. He had never seen anything so big and beautiful in his whole life. As the family walked down the long center aisle, people on both sides watched them with great admiration. Government ministers, church leaders, and famous people from all over the world were sitting in the wooden pews. Some of them smiled when they saw the children. Others looked very serious and respectful. The Abbey itself seemed to welcome the royal family. Sunlight streamed through the ancient stained glass windows, creating beautiful patterns of red, blue, and gold light on the stone floor. The ceiling was so high it seemed to touch the clouds. Everywhere there were carvings of angels, flowers, and crowns that had been made hundreds of years ago. Kate's footsteps echoed softly on the stone floor. Each step seemed to say, "I am here. I am proud. I am ready." William's steps were strong and steady, like a soldier marching. The children's smaller steps sounded like gentle raindrops following behind. People began to whisper quietly to each other. "Look how beautiful Princess Catherine looks. The children are behaving so well. Prince William looks so handsome." This is truly a magical moment. As they walked deeper into the Abbey, getting closer to the altar where the ceremony would take place, the royal family seemed to glow with a special light. They were not just walking into a building. They were walking into history. This was their moment, and it was absolutely perfect. As the royal family walked down the long aisle, something magical happened. Every single person in Westminster Abbey was completely focused on them. The Prime Minister stopped reading his papers. The Archbishop smiled warmly. Famous actors and musicians turned in their seats to get a better look. Even the choir boys stood a little taller when they saw the royal family approaching. Kate's beautiful smile seemed to light up every corner of the ancient Abbey. When she looked toward the left side, the people there felt special. When she looked toward the right side, those people felt honored too. Her eyes sparkled with happiness, and everyone could see that she truly loved being there with all these important people. "Look at Princess Catherine," whispered Lady Margaret, who was sitting in the third row. "She looks like she was born to be a princess." "And Prince William looks so handsome in his uniform," whispered back her friend Mrs. Henderson. William walked with perfect posture, his medals catching the colorful light from the stained glass windows. When he saw old friends in the crowd, he gave them a small nod of recognition. When he passed by war veterans, he looked at them with special respect. His presence made everyone feel proud to be British. But it was the children who really stole everyone's hearts. Prince George was walking like a true prince. His back was straight, his head was high, and his steps were careful and measured. He had been practicing for weeks, and all that practice was showing. When he passed by a group of young boys from a local school, he gave them a serious but friendly nod. The boys' eyes went wide with excitement. "Did you see that?" One boy whispered loudly. Prince George nodded at us. Princess Charlotte was absolutely glowing with confidence. She seemed to enjoy every second of walking down the aisle. When she saw the children's choir dressed in their white robes, she gave them a little wave. The choir children giggled quietly and waved back. Charlotte's natural charm was working its magic on everyone she passed. One little girl in the choir whispered to her friend, "Princess Charlotte is so pretty. I want to be just like her when I grow up." But it was little Prince Louis who was capturing the most attention. Even though he was only 5 years old, he was trying so hard to be good and walk properly. His little legs were working overtime to keep up with his family. Sometimes he would look up at the incredibly high ceiling, and his mouth would open in wonder. When Louis passed by Mrs. Thompson, an elderly lady who had been invited because of her charity work, she couldn't help but smile. "Oh, what a sweet little boy," she said quietly to her neighbor. "He looks just like his father did at that age." Louis heard her and turned to look at the nice old lady. Without thinking, he gave her the biggest, brightest smile ever. Mrs. Thompson felt tears of joy come to her eyes. It was the most precious moment of her whole day. As the family continued walking, conversations were happening all around the Abbey in very quiet whispers. "They look like the perfect royal family," said one government minister. "The children are so well behaved," commented a famous singer. "Princess Catherine's dress is absolutely stunning," noted a fashion designer. "This is a moment we'll remember forever," said the French ambassador. The royal family was almost halfway down the aisle now. With each step they took, they were winning more hearts and creating more magical moments. Everyone in the Abbey felt lucky to be there, watching this incredible family walk toward their seats. The spell they were casting was complete. Westminster Abbey had never felt more royal. The royal family finally reached their special seats in the front row of Westminster Abbey. The seats were covered in deep red velvet and had been specially prepared for this important day. Kate sat down gracefully, smoothing her navy blue dress. William sat beside her, his military uniform crisp and perfect. The three children sat in order next to their parents. George, then Charlotte, then little Louis on the end. As soon as they were seated, the Archbishop of Canterbury stood up at the front of the Abbey. He was wearing beautiful white and gold robes that seemed to shimmer in the light. His voice was deep and warm as he began to speak. "Welcome, everyone, to this very special service of thanksgiving," the Archbishop said. His words echoed through the ancient stone walls. Kate and William immediately gave him their full attention. They sat up straight and looked directly at him, showing respect for the important ceremony. Kate's hands were folded neatly in her lap. William's military training showed in the way he sat perfectly still and alert. The children were trying their very best to behave like proper royals. George had his little program book open and was following along carefully. He looked very serious, just like his father. Sometimes he would whisper something quietly to Charlotte, and she would nod and whisper back. Charlotte was fascinated by everything happening around her. She loved the beautiful music, the colorful windows, and all the important people dressed in their finest clothes. Her eyes sparkled with interest as she watched the ceremony unfold. Little Louis was doing surprisingly well for a 5-year-old boy. He was sitting still and trying to listen, even though some of the big words were hard for him to understand. Sometimes he would swing his legs a tiny bit, but Kate would gently put her hand on his knee, and he would remember to sit still. When it was time for the first hymn, something wonderful happened. Kate's clear, beautiful voice rose above many others as she sang. She knew all the words by heart. William's deeper voice joined hers, creating a perfect harmony. Even George tried to sing along, though he was still learning some of the words. The hymn was Jerusalem, one of England's most beloved songs. As hundreds of voices joined together, the sound filled every corner of Westminster Abbey. The music seemed to make the old stones come alive with joy. During the quiet prayer time, the royal family showed their deep respect. Kate closed her eyes and bowed her head slightly. William did the same, his face peaceful and thoughtful. George copied his parents perfectly, while Charlotte peeked around occasionally to see what everyone else was doing. Louis tried to pray too, but sometimes he would look up at the beautiful ceiling or watch the colorful light patterns dancing on the walls. When Kate noticed him getting distracted, she would gently squeeze his hand to help him focus. The Archbishop began reading from the Bible. His words were about kindness, service, and helping others. Kate and William listened carefully to every word. These were ideas they believed in strongly and tried to teach their children every day. "We must remember to help those who need us most," the Archbishop said. "We must be kind to everyone we meet." Charlotte whispered very quietly to George, "That's what Mama and Papa always tell us." George nodded and whispered back, "That's why we do charity work." Even little Louis seemed to understand that something very important and special was happening. He sat as still as he could and tried to listen to the big words. The service was bringing everyone together in a beautiful way. As the service continued in Westminster Abbey, beautiful moments began happening between the royal family members. These were the kinds of sweet moments that made everyone watching fall in love with them even more. About halfway through the ceremony, little Prince Louis started to get restless. He had been sitting still for a very long time, which was hard for any 5-year-old boy. He began to fidget with his program book, folding it and unfolding it quietly. His little legs started swinging back and forth under his seat. Kate noticed right away. Like any good mother, she could sense when one of her children needed help. She leaned down close to Louis and whispered something in his ear. Her voice was so soft and gentle that only Louis could hear her words. "You're doing such a good job being quiet," Kate whispered. "Just a little bit longer, and then we can go home and have your favorite lunch." Louis looked up at his mother with big, trusting eyes. He nodded and tried to sit still again. Kate's loving smile gave him the strength to keep trying. She gently rubbed his back with her hand, and Louis felt much better. William was watching this sweet moment between his wife and youngest son. His heart filled with love and pride. Kate was such a wonderful mother, always knowing exactly what to say to help their children. William reached over and gave Kate's hand a little squeeze to let her know he was proud of her too. During one of the prayers, something special happened between William and George. The Archbishop was saying a prayer for all the children of the world, asking God to keep them safe and help them grow up to be good people. William felt this prayer was very important, and he wanted to share this moment with his oldest son. William placed his hand gently on George's shoulder. George looked up at his father and saw the serious, loving expression on his face. Without saying a word, William was telling George, "This prayer is for you too. I want you to grow up to be a good man who helps others." George understood. He sat up even straighter and closed his eyes tighter during the prayer. He felt the weight of his father's hand on his shoulder, and it made him feel strong and important. George knew that one day he would be the king, and his father was helping him learn how to be ready for that big responsibility. Princess Charlotte was having her own special moment with the beautiful music. The Abbey's choir began singing a song that was so pretty it made her heart feel happy. The voices of the young singers rose up to the high ceiling like angels singing in heaven. Charlotte loved music and had been taking piano lessons at home. As she listened to the choir, she began to sway very gently to the rhythm. Her eyes were bright with joy as she watched the choir boys and girls singing with all their hearts. One of the choir girls, who was about Charlotte's age, caught her eye. The girl gave Charlotte a tiny smile while she was singing. Charlotte smiled back, and for a moment, it was like they were sharing a secret friendship across the Abbey. When the beautiful song ended, Charlotte clapped very softly, just like her mother had taught her. Her appreciation for the music showed on her face, and many people in the Abbey noticed how much she had enjoyed it. These precious family moments were being captured by cameras, but they felt completely natural and real. The royal family wasn't acting for the cameras. They were just being themselves, loving each other and sharing this special day together. Everyone watching could see that this was a family full of genuine love and care for each other. As the beautiful service in Westminster Abbey came to an end, the Archbishop of Canterbury spoke his final blessing. His voice echoed through the ancient stone walls one last time. "May God bless you and keep you safe," he said to everyone gathered there. The words seemed to float up to the high ceiling like a gentle prayer. Kate felt a warm feeling in her heart. The service had been even more beautiful than she had hoped. She looked at William and saw the same peaceful expression on his face. Their children had behaved perfectly, and she felt so proud of them. The Archbishop nodded toward the royal family. This was their signal that it was time to leave. Kate took a deep breath and stood up slowly and gracefully. Her navy blue dress fell perfectly around her as she rose from her velvet chair. She looked even more beautiful now than when she had first walked in. William stood up next, his military uniform still perfectly neat despite sitting for over an hour. He looked around the Abbey one more time, taking in the magnificent sight of all the important people who had come to share this special day. His chest swelled with pride for his country and his family. The three children knew exactly what to do. They had practiced this moment many times at home. George stood up first, straightening his little jacket and making sure his tie was still neat. Charlotte rose gracefully, just like her mother had taught her. Little Louis needed a tiny bit of help from Kate, but he managed to stand up like a big boy. Now came the moment everyone had been waiting for, the ceremonial exit. This would be their final chance to make a lasting impression on all the distinguished guests and the millions of people watching around the world. Kate began walking first, But this time she seemed to glow with even more confidence than before. The service had filled her with peace and strength. Every step she took down the long aisle was perfect. Her smile was radiant and warm, like sunshine breaking through clouds. William walked beside her with incredible dignity. His military training showed in every step, strong, steady, and proud. The medals on his uniform caught the light from the stained glass windows, creating tiny rainbows that danced across the stone walls. The children followed behind their parents, and they looked like perfect little angels. George had grown even more confident during the service. He walked with his head high and his shoulders back, looking every inch like a future king. His serious expression showed that he understood the importance of this moment. Charlotte was practically glowing with happiness. She had loved every minute of the ceremony, and it showed on her face. Her steps were light and graceful, and she seemed to float down the aisle like a princess from a fairy tale. When she passed by the children's choir, she gave them another small wave, and they beamed with joy. Little Louis was walking better than anyone had expected. The long service had tired him out a bit, but he was determined to make his family proud. His tiny legs carried him steadily down the aisle, and his face showed intense concentration as he tried to keep up with his siblings. As the family walked past each row of seats, people began to stand up to show their respect. First, the government ministers stood, then the church leaders, then everyone else. Soon the entire abbey was filled with people standing and quietly clapping their appreciation. The royal family's exit was like a beautiful, slow-motion dance. Every step was graceful. Every moment was magical. They were leaving Westminster Abbey as an even stronger, more beloved royal family than when they had arrived. The perfect day was reaching its perfect ending. As the royal family stepped out of Westminster Abbey and into the bright afternoon sunlight, the cheering from the crowd was louder than ever before. The people who had been waiting outside for hours erupted in celebration. They waved their flags, threw flower petals into the air, and shouted words of love and support. Kate paused for a moment at the top of the Abbey steps and looked out at all the happy faces. Her heart felt so full of joy that she thought it might burst. The navy blue dress that she had chosen so carefully that morning had been perfect for this incredible day. She felt beautiful, confident, and deeply grateful for all the love surrounding her family. William stood tall beside his wife, his chest puffed out with pride. He had served his country as a soldier, and now he was serving as a royal family member. Both roles made him feel honored and humble at the same time. He waved to the crowd with genuine warmth, and they responded with even more cheers. The three children were absolutely glowing with happiness. George had successfully completed his first major royal ceremony, and he felt very grown up. He had walked like a prince, sat like a prince, and behaved like a future king. His parents' proud smiles told him that he had done everything right. Charlotte was practically bouncing with excitement, though she tried to contain it like a proper princess should. She had loved every single minute of the day. The beautiful Abbey, the gorgeous music, the fancy clothes, and all the people watching her. She felt like she was living in the most wonderful dream ever. Little Louis was tired but happy. He had been good for such a long time, and everyone was proud of him. When he saw his grandmother, Queen Elizabeth's portrait on one of the flags in the crowd, he pointed and said loudly, "Look, it's Great Granny." The crowd heard him and laughed with pure delight. As the family made their way back to their special car, something amazing was already happening around the world. News reporters were calling this the most beautiful royal appearance in years. Television channels were showing the footage over and over again. Social media was exploding with photos and videos of their stunning entrance and graceful exit. People in America were staying up late to watch the coverage. Families in Australia were gathering around their televisions. In Japan, newspaper editors were choosing which photographs to put on their front pages. The whole world had fallen in love with this perfect royal family moment. Back in their car, the family finally relaxed. Kate slipped off her formal shoes and wiggled her toes. William loosened his tie just a little bit. The children were chattering excitedly about everything they had seen and done. "Did you see how many people were there?" Charlotte asked with wide eyes. "I saw someone with a dog wearing a crown," Louis announced, making everyone laugh. "You all did wonderfully today," Kate told her children. "I'm so proud of each of you." As their car drove through the streets of London heading home to Kensington Palace, people were still lining the sidewalks, waving and taking pictures. The royal family waved back through the windows, their faces tired but glowing with happiness. This had been more than just a ceremony at Westminster Abbey. It had been a day that showed the world why the British royal family was still loved and respected after all these centuries. They had proven that they could honor old traditions while being a modern, loving family that everyone could admire. When they finally arrived home, they knew this day would be remembered forever. They had created memories that would last a lifetime, both for themselves and for everyone who had been lucky enough to witness their stunning appearance at the Abbey gathering. The perfect day was complete.